What is up everyone, Willpower Cup is starting later today, so let's dive in and get ready for it. In Willpower Cup, only Dark, Psychic and or Fighting Pokemon will be allowed, which creates an extremely shallow meta with not that many viable species. I wouldn't say this is necessarily a bad thing though, because in what is available there are a lot of very flexible options, meaning that games probably won't come down to a lot of rock, paper, scissors. Of course, there are specialist Pokemon like Umbreon, Hypno and Machamp, which will follow the standard RPS loop of Dark beats Psychic, Psychic beats Fighting, and Fighting beats Dark. But there are also very good core breakers available, like Ponyard, Zweitis, Crafty, Obstagoon and Charm Liepard, which do very good versus opposing Dark types and Psychic types. Sableye, Mandibuzz, Mew and Alolan Raichu, which will do very well versus all Psychic and Fighting types. And to break Fighting and Dark cores, we got Pokemon such as Charm, Wobbuffet, Galarian, Rapidash and the King of Fighters, Medicham. Besides that, there's also some mons that do quite well versus all groups, like the Dark Poisons, Galarian, Rapidash and to a lesser extent even Cresselia, which because of its bulk and fairy coverage is play versus even the dark types. So even though there aren't that many viable Pokemon, I do feel like that if you're running a proper team, most matches will come down to how you play instead of what lineups you run into, which I do really like. We'll see whether or not I'm right about that once the meta develops. For now, we'll just prepare for the worst with some flexible teams, starting with a line featuring Ponyard. I think will be one of the strongest Pokemon in this meta. Of course, it's not very easy to get since it does have to be XL, but the good news is IVs aren't that important on it. So even if you're running one that's barely XL, it'll do fine. It's an amazing dark answer in this format because of its dark and steel typing. It basically resists everything most darks can throw at it, and it can fire back with super effective or neutral Fury Cutters and Iron Head. Besides that, it also triple resists all psychic moves, so it's an amazing counter there. It just really has to watch out for fighting types because you will get absolutely owned by them. That's why we're running two very flexible anti-fighters in the back in Galarian, Rapidash and Mandibuzz. With Air Slash is what I would recommend, because with Snarl you're just not good enough versus most fighting types and dark poisons. With Air Slash you are much better there. With Air Slash you are a little worse for the psychic types, especially versus Cresselia you are gonna struggle a bit, but we already got Ponyard in the lead, we don't really need more psychic answers. Galarian Rapidash will be running Fairy Wind, Play Rough and Body Slam for the best dark coverage possible. It's just a very good anti-fighter and anti-dark that way. It does struggle a lot versus the dark poisons like Skuntank, Drapion and Alolan Mug though. So in this team, if you do run into a bad lead, I would highly recommend you switch in Mandibuzz. Honestly, the odds are pretty high they will switch in the Dark Poison there. Dark Poisons do generally have a solid matchup versus Mandibuzz. And then you've lured it out and your Galarian Rapidash can hopefully sweep the back. Speaking of Dark Poisons, especially Skuntank can be a little issue for this team, as Ponyard does almost got one-shot by a flamethrower from it. But if you just keep shields up, you should be able to deal with it with either your Ponyard or your Mandibuzz. So overall, very flexible team, I think will work quite fine here. Next up is squad, I think we'll see a lot of Medicham double dark. Medicham is quite solid in this meta, one of the best dark answers. Oh, if they're not called Mandibuzz or Sableye that is, and beats basically all the other fighting types. Really only has to worry about other psychic types such as Mew, Galarian, Rapidash and Cresselia, and then dark types like Sableye and Mandibuzz of course, but versus Mandibuzz especially, Medicham has a ton of play with Ice Punch. On Medicham, by the way, you're gonna want to run counter Ice Punch for sure, and then as a second move, probably gonna want to run Dynamic Punch or Power Punch. Psychic seems quite useless here, and with Power Punch or Dynamic Punch, you just make your dark matchups so much better. So that is what I'd recommend. Then putting two dark types behind it really helps cover for its main weaknesses, to especially Psychic types and Sableye. Of course, Dark plus Medicham might seem kind of weak to Galarian Rapidash, but it is more playable than you think, because even like an Umbreon can actually beat Galarian Rapidash in the one shield, as a Play Rough just doesn't knock it out, and two foul plays do take out Galarian Rapidash, so it has a lot of play there. I've kind of separated dark types into two groups here. The flexible dark types, which are in the right bubble, and the less flexible dark types, which are in the middle bubble. I would highly recommend you go with at least one of the flexible dark types, Mandibuzz, Sableye, or Skuntank, or any Dark Poison Reader, Alolan Grimer, Drapion, Overqwil, Quillfish, all fit there too. At least one of those, and then one of the less flexible ones in Umbreon or Pawniard. The reason for that is that both Umbreon and Pawniard can both get countered quite hard by like fighting types, for example. So you wouldn't want to run both on the same team, as you're likely to get rock, paper, scissors. But if you run some of the more flexible dark types like Manabuzz or Skuntank, you can easily pivot these and you wouldn't really have to worry about getting hard countered. Like I said earlier, Galarian Rapidash can be a bit of a problem depending on what configuration of the team you use. But even if you go with the weakest configuration to Galarian Rapidash, like Medicham, Umbreon, Manabuzz, there should still be a lot of play there. Ideally though, I would highly recommend you at least bring like Pawniard, Skuntank or Sableye, so you have more play against Galarian Rapidash. The next team is Triple Dark Poison. Yes, that is a Hisuian Quillfish, not a regular Quillfish. I just don't have a gift for Hisuian Quillfish, so we're gonna have to deal with regular Quillfish for now. But yeah, this team is not a meme, by the way. It might seem like a meme. Funny, putting 3 of the same type of Pokemon on the same team. No, I actually think this team could work quite well, as there are barely any hard counters to Dark Poisons in this meta. There's really only Toxicroak, which is a hard counter, and who's really gonna run Toxicroak, right? In a meta with Manabuzzes, Sableyes, Psychic types, Metachamps, I don't think Toxicroak looks too good. Claydol and Pawniard can also deal with all 3 for sure, but they are very beatable, especially Claydol. You can only shield so many Aqua Tails or Crunches before you go down. Pawniard is squishy enough to get taken out by teamwork, so I do believe that this squad could work quite fine. Now, which Dark Poison should you use? It really doesn't matter, I think. However, I would highly recommend you go with the ones with the most coverage. Alolan Muk and Grimer I don't think will be very good, as they only have Dark and Poison moves. On these 3 we got Aqua Tail and Drapion to hit the other Dark Poisons, and Pawniard for neutral. We got Aqua Tail and Quillfish for the same reason, and Shadow Ball as a second move so it can one-shot Metachamps. And then on Skuntank we got Flamethrower again for the other Dark Poisons, and also to almost one-shot Pawniard. I also think you might want to consider running Sludge Bomb on Drapion as a second move. Yeah, Aqua Tail Sludge Bomb might seem a little crazy, but I don't think Crunch is that necessary, and Sludge Bomb would really help you hit Pokemon like Umbreon and Manabuzz a little harder. I have one worry with this team, and that is that you're gonna get out-bulked by like bulky Dark types like Umbreon and Manabuzz. So to fix that, you could also lead with Galarian Rapidash, you can beat those Dark types, or with your own Manabuzz, so you can do the bulking yourself. Besides that, it will also help you become a little bit stronger versus these guys, which is quite nice too. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what team you're gonna run down in the comments below, and if you want more Willpower Cup, check out this video. Well, it won't be that video if you're watching this right as it goes live, but once my first Willpower videos uploaded, it will be that video. Anyway, thank you very much. See you next one. Good luck, your battle stringers.